Hey everyone, Story Master here. Welcome back. I know a lot of you put these videos on to fall asleep, and I'm really glad you're here. Before we begin, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you think. Alright, get comfortable, take a slow breath in and out, and let's start tonight's story. The first call came from a woman who wouldn't say her name. "I'm not paying you," she said. "I'm warning you." That's not how clients usually start, but it's how witnesses do. "Warning me about what?" I asked. "About the stairwell," she replied, and her voice tightened around the word like it hurt to say it. "You won't believe me, and you shouldn't. But if you ever hear someone say, 'visitor badge,' you leave. You don't stay polite." The line went dead. I sat there for a moment with the receiver in my hand, listening to the dull silence that follows a threat you can't interpret yet. Then I did what I always do when someone drops a puzzle piece into my lap without showing me the picture. I wrote it down. Time. Number. Phrase. Visitor badge. It meant nothing. Until it didn't. 2 days later, a man walked into my office with a grief face, eyes clear, voice steady, body in denial. He was the kind of person who had spent 48 hours telling himself a story where everything was fine. "My wife is missing," he said. "And I think the police are tired of me." "How long?" I asked. 5 days, he replied. "She went to look at a flat. A viewing. She told me she'd be home by 8. "Name?" I asked. "Evelyn," he said. "Evelyn Hart." He slid his phone across the desk. A text thread. A letting agent name. An address in a modern apartment block near the docks. A viewing time, 1915. And then, after the viewing time, one last message Evelyn sent him. "They gave me a visitor badge. Back soon." Visitor badge. My pen stopped moving. The man watched my face change and leaned forward. "What?" he asked. I didn't like answering quickly. Quick answers tend to be wrong. But I didn't have the luxury of slow. "Tell me everything," I said. "From the start." Evelyn, he said, had been stressed lately. Their rent was going up. The landlord wanted them out. She'd been looking for a new place quietly, late at night, scrolling listings like a person looking for an exit. 2 days before she disappeared, she'd mentioned a private viewing. Not through the big agencies. Someone who specialized in off-market units, whatever that meant. "Did she send you the agent's name?" I asked. He nodded and showed me the contact, M. Lister. No company logo. No website. Just a phone number and a WhatsApp profile photo of a gray building entrance, cropped so tightly it was impossible to identify. "Did you call that number?" I asked. "Hundreds of times," he said. "It rings, then stops. No voicemail. A number that rings but never answers is a number that's still active. That's a detail people miss when they're panicking. They think silence means gone. It often means busy." I took the case because of the badge line and because his wife wasn't the sort to vanish without noise. People who vanish cleanly are either trained, or taken by someone who is. The building. The apartment block was called Alder Quay. New signage, clean lobby, glass doors that made the whole place feel like an advertisement for safety. Inside, a concierge sat behind a desk, scrolling a screen with the bored posture of someone paid to look alert. I didn't announce myself as a detective. I walked in like a resident with a problem. "I'm here about a viewing," I said. He glanced up. "Which agent?" "M. Lister," I replied, watching for a flicker. No flicker. That told me one of two things: either the concierge truly didn't know every agent, or he did, and he'd been trained not to react. "Sign in," he said, sliding a tablet toward me. On the screen was a form. Name. Phone. Unit number. Reason for visit. At the bottom, a checkbox, visitor badge issued. My stomach tightened again. I kept my face blank. Do you issue the badges? I asked casually. He nodded. Standard. What's the policy? I asked. Do you keep them at the end? He shrugged. Visitors return them. And if they don't? I asked. He gave me a look that said he'd never thought about it. Or he didn't want to. We log it, he said. Can I see the log? I asked. Now he looked more awake. No. Of course, I said, as if I didn't care. I stepped aside like I was waiting, and I watched. Concierge desks are like guard towers. They look outward, but the most important thing they do is control who goes up and down. In 10 minutes, 3 people entered. 2 residents. 1 delivery driver. The delivery driver didn't sign in. He held up a laminated card from a distance, and the concierge buzzed him through without a question. That was not standard. That was familiarity. When the driver disappeared toward the lifts, I walked out and circled the building. Not because I expected to find a secret trapdoor, but because buildings tell the truth at the back. Service doors, bins, stairwells, the places where luxury becomes concrete and locks. Behind Alder Quay was a narrow service alley with a gate. The gate had a keypad and a camera. And on the wall beside it, half torn, was a sticker, a simple line and dot symbol. The same kind of a mark I'd seen criminals use in other contexts, something that looks meaningless unless you're one of the people who needs it. I took a photo and went back to my car. Then I did something I don't enjoy, I waited. Stakeouts aren't cinematic. They're hours of nothing, punctuated by moments that you remember forever. At 19:05, almost exactly 1 week after Evelyn's scheduled viewing, a woman arrived at the entrance, young, alone, checking her phone. She stood under the lobby canopy like she'd been told to wait there. A man approached her. Plain clothes. No uniform. No visible ID. He spoke softly, smiled once, and gestured toward the concierge desk. The woman nodded. He walked her inside. I watched from the street, heart steady, mind sharp. This wasn't one missing person. This was a repeating route. I followed them in. Not close enough to be obvious, close enough to hear fragments. Just sign in, the man said. We issue a visitor badge, standard procedure. Visitor badge again. The woman signed. The concierge issued a badge without looking at her face, like it was all routine. The man guided her toward the lift bank and tapped something on the panel. The lift doors opened. They stepped inside. And then the doors shut. I pressed the call button immediately. The concierge glanced at me, irritation rising. Can I help you? I'm meeting someone, I said. Name? He asked. I gave a random name. He shook his head. No. Then, too quickly, please leave the lobby. That was the moment his role changed. Not bored employee. Gatekeeper. I stepped back, hands open in a calming gesture, and walked out as if I'd been embarrassed. Then I went straight to the service alley. Because if the lift is controlled, and the lobby is watched, you don't go through the front. You go through the back. The service gate keypad was the type that's supposed to lock you out. But you'd be surprised how many secure gates are programmed with default codes that never get changed because nobody believes anyone will test them. I tried the building number. Nothing. I tried 0000. Nothing. Then I tried the viewing time, 1915. The keypad beeped. Green. The gate clicked open. My mouth went dry. That wasn't chance. That was a system designed by someone who understood how people think. I stepped into the alley and found the service door. It was propped open a fraction by a small wedge. Inside was a stairwell. Concrete. White paint. Smell of damp and detergent. And taped to the stairwell wall, right at eye level, was another small sign, printed cleanly. Visitors. An arrow pointing down. Down, not up. In a residential building, visitors don't go down. They go up. I moved down the stairs quietly, one hand on the rail, listening. Somewhere below, a door opened. A soft thud. A voice, male, calm, speaking the way people speak when they're managing someone who might panic. Just a quick check, the voice said. Standard. That word again. Standard. Then another voice, female, uncertain. I don't understand. Visitor badge, the male voice said, reassuring. Procedure. I reached the bottom of the stairs and found a corridor that didn't exist in the building's marketing brochure. No windows. Metal doors. Storage rooms. A utility space. And at the end, a heavy door with a keypad. Beside it was a desk. Not a full desk, just a small station, like a security post. There was a clipboard on it with names and times. I shouldn't have looked. I looked. The list wasn't long, but it was long enough. Names. Dates. Unit numbers. And next to each name, a single word written in neat block letters, compliant. That wasn't property management. That was sorting. A scrape came from behind me, someone on the stairs. I turned my light off instantly and pressed myself into the shadow beside a utility door. Footsteps descended slowly. Not hurried. Confident. A man came into view holding a mug. He wore a building maintenance jacket, but it hung too clean on him, like a costume. He set the mug down on the desk and checked the clipboard. Then he picked up a visitor badge from a small tray, one of the same laminated cards issued upstairs. He turned it over in his hands like he was weighing it. Then, very softly, he said to himself, 2-minute window. 2-minute window. My skin went cold. Because I understood what that meant, the gap between cameras, between patrol rounds, between a concierge glance and a door that closes. It's never the whole night that criminals use. It's the small gaps people ignore. The man keyed a code into the heavy door. It opened inward. Bright light spilled out, too bright for a basement. Clinical. He stepped inside and shut it behind him. And I moved. Not toward the door. Toward the clipboard. I took photos as fast as I could, names, dates, notes, proof that this wasn't a misunderstanding. Proof there was a pattern. Then I backed up the stairs quietly, heart hammering now, because I'd crossed the line from observing to collecting. Halfway up, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Wrong stairwell. I froze. They knew. I didn't run. Running makes noise. Noise makes you easy. I moved steadily, quietly, and came out into the alley. The service gate was still open. I stepped through and let it close behind me as gently as possible. Then I walked away, fast enough to matter, calm enough not to draw attention. Back in my car, I called my police contact and told him everything: the building, the stairwell signage, the gate code, the basement desk, the compliance list. I sent him the photos immediately. He didn't argue. He didn't dismiss. He just said, "Stay there. Don't go back in." "I'm not going back in," I replied. "You are." Sirens arrived 15 minutes later. Quiet at first, unmarked cars, officers moving like they'd learned from other mistakes. Then marked units. Then more. They sealed the building. They pulled the concierge aside. They took the desk station in the basement like it was a crime scene, which it was. And when they opened the heavy door at the bottom of the stairs, they found the truth you hope never exists in places you walk past every day. A small room dressed like an office. A chair bolted to the floor. Straps. A locked cabinet full of sedatives and disposable gloves. And a second door leading into an empty storage unit that connected, through another service corridor, to the car park. A pipeline from lobby to basement to vehicle. A clean route. They found one woman alive. The one I'd watched enter the lift. She was shaken, sedated, but breathing. They didn't find Evelyn alive. They found her 2 days later in a different place, after the arrest started loosening mouths. She'd been moved too many times, treated like an item, and disposed of when she became non-compliant. That word returned in my head like a stain. Compliant. As if obedience was the difference between life and death. The concierge, in the end, wasn't the mastermind. He was a paid participant, told it was private security work, told the building needed extra measures, told not to ask questions. He chose money and routine over conscience. The man in the maintenance jacket was worse. Former security contractor. The kind of man who knew exactly where cameras didn't look, exactly how long doors stayed unmonitored, exactly what tone to use to keep someone calm long enough to get them downstairs. And the letting agent contact, M. Lister, wasn't a person. It was a phone. A script. A funnel. A trap dressed as a viewing. After everything, Evelyn's husband returned to my office and sat without speaking. The grief in him wasn't loud. It was organized, like he was trying to file it into categories so it wouldn't crush him all at once. "Why the badge?" he asked finally. I answered as simply as I could. "Because badges turn people into visitors," I said. "Visitors don't ask questions. Visitors comply. Visitors accept procedure." He nodded once, eyes empty. "And the building?" he asked. "The building is just concrete," I said. The danger was people using the building's rules as a weapon. When he left, I stood by my window and watched strangers walk through rain with their heads down, trusting that doors and lights mean safety. And I thought about that first call, the woman who warned me. She hadn't been a client. She'd been a witness. Someone who knew the system existed and couldn't bear being the only one carrying it. I still don't know her name. But I kept the phrase she gave me, written on a card above my desk. Visitor badge. Not because it's magical. Because it's ordinary. And ordinary words are often the ones criminals hide behind, right up until the moment the door closes. There's a kind of crime that doesn't feel like crime at first. It feels like paperwork. Like a schedule. Like a normal day holding itself together with tape and habit. The kind of crime that can keep going for months because everyone involved has learned to act ordinary. This one started with a missing woman and a camera that blinked at the wrong time. Her name was Hannah Vukovic. 26. Worked reception at a private physiotherapy clinic. Not famous, not wealthy, just reliable enough that people noticed when she didn't show up. Her brother came to my office on a rainy afternoon and placed 2 things on the desk, a photograph and a printout of a call log. The photograph showed Hannah on a bridge at night, smiling, face turned slightly away from the lens, hair caught by wind. The background was blurred city lights and black water. The call log was the part that mattered. "Every night, she called me when she got home," he said. "We had a stupid habit. 2 minutes. Just to say she's safe." 2 minutes, I repeated. He nodded. "I missed her call on Tuesday. I called back. It rang, then, voicemail. That never happens. Her phone is never off." "Police?" I asked. "They said wait 48 hours, he said, jaw tight. Then they said adults disappear." Then they said maybe she left with someone. He pointed at the call log. But look, her phone called me. It shows an outgoing call at 23:58. Exactly like always. 2 minutes long. And you didn't answer, I said. I didn't, he replied. But the call still lasted 2 minutes. That's not a normal missed call. A missed call doesn't last 2 minutes unless someone stays on the line. Unless someone wants it to look like routine. I took the case. Not because I believed I was faster than police, but because someone had already tried to create a clean story. Clean stories are often lies. The clinic where Hannah worked was modern, quiet, and obsessed with cleanliness in the way private healthcare often is: soft lighting, polite signage, a reception desk designed to make money feel like comfort. I introduced myself to the manager as Show Up and Smile, Private. I didn't say, investigation, unless I had to. People open doors more easily when they think you're doing admin, not accusing them of anything. The manager, man in his 40s, neat haircut, careful voice, told me Hannah left at 22:30. Alone. Normal. He offered sympathy the way businesses do, in measured quantities. I asked for CCTV. He said, we're not allowed to release footage without police request. That's fine, I said. Then tell me what it shows. He hesitated. A fraction too long. It shows her leaving, he said. That's all. Any gaps? I asked. No, he replied quickly. Then added, softer, our system is reliable. Reliable systems still fail. But people only insist on reliability when they're afraid you'll check. I left the clinic and walked the route from the door to the nearest main street, 2 minutes at a normal pace. 2 minutes. That number followed me like a shadow. At the corner, there was a small alley behind a closed bakery. A bin enclosure. A place where a person could step out of sight for a few seconds without realizing they'd crossed into a different world. I stood there and listened. Cities have sounds that tell you what they've been used for: broken glass, old grease, stale urine, cigarette smoke. This alley smelled like disinfectant. Not sprayed by the council. Sprayed by someone trying to erase. The call log bothered me. If Hannah's phone made a 2-minute call while she was being taken, it meant one of two things. Someone held the phone and stayed on the line to mimic her routine. The call was automated, triggered by an app or scheduled action, then someone ensured it looked normal. I asked her brother for every detail about the habit. What did she say on the calls? I asked. He swallowed. Always the same 3 sentences, he said. She'd say, I'm home. Then she'd complain about her feet. Then she'd ask if our mother took her pills. Routine isn't just comfort. It's a lock code criminals can use. And Tuesday? I asked. He looked down. I listened to the voicemail, he said. There was no message. But I heard breathing. Like someone holding the phone close. And a faint beeping. What kind of beeping? I asked. He frowned. Like a reversing alarm. A vehicle. A van, then. Not supernatural. Not mysterious forces. Just logistics. The next day I sat near the clinic at closing time and watched. Not the patients, staff. People who kidnap don't always start as kidnappers. Sometimes they start as employees with access, resentment, and a side plan. At 22:20, a man came out the staff door carrying a black bag. He walked with purpose, but not urgency, like he knew time mattered, but also knew nobody would question him. He got into a gray hatchback and drove away. I followed at a distance, careful, boring, invisible. He stopped at a storage facility 10 minutes outside the center. Bright floodlights, cameras, keypad gates. The kind of place people rent when they want privacy without questions. He keyed in a code and entered. I did not follow through the gate. Instead, I parked across the road where I could see the entrance and waited. After 20 minutes, he came back out. And behind him, exiting separately, was a white van with no logos. That was the first real connection. Clinic staff timing plus storage facility plus unmarked van. Not proof, but a shape. On Thursday night, Hannah's brother called me, voice shaking. Someone messaged me, he said. From her number. What did it say? I asked. He read it out loud. Stop asking questions. She's fine. That message wasn't meant to reassure him. It was meant to silence him. And silencing is a mistake, because it creates urgency. Police and providers move faster when a missing person's phone is used in a threatening way. I told him two things. Do not reply. Screenshot everything and send it to me. Then I made my own move. I called Hannah's number from a prepaid. It rang twice. Someone answered. No greeting. No voice. Just the sound of a room, faint hum, like a fridge, and that same vehicle beep in the distance. I didn't speak. I listened. After a few seconds, the line clicked dead. That told me more than words would have. A person who answers without speaking is a person checking whether you're a threat. A person who hangs up fast is a person who's busy. I went back to the storage facility in daylight and did the oldest trick in modern crime. I acted like a customer with a problem. I walked into the office, smiled, and told the clerk my unit wasn't locking properly. I didn't have a unit, but the clerk didn't know that yet. Clerks are trained to solve small issues fast. What number? He asked. I named a number at random. He clicked through a screen, frowned, and said, that one's not yours. Sorry, I said, embarrassed on purpose. It's my brother's. I always mix it up. He sighed, already tired of me, and slid a clipboard over. Write the surname. That's the moment most people stop. Because that's where you can get caught. I didn't write. I glanced at the rental terms posted behind him and pointed. Do you need ID for this? It says here. While he looked away, I watched his screen reflection in the glass of the office window. It showed a list of current rentals. One name stood out because it matched the clinic manager's surname. Not the staff man I'd followed. The manager. Same careful voice. Same insistence about reliable systems. I stepped back, apologized, and left before I pushed my luck. Outside, I sat in my car and wrote it all down. Because the fastest way to die in a case like this is to improvise heroics without documentation. That evening I didn't go to the storage unit. I went to the police with what I had. The threatening text from Hannah's phone. The fact her phone made a 2-minute call to mimic routine. The link between clinic management and a storage unit. The sighting of an unmarked van leaving the facility after clinic staff arrived. This was enough to get attention. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was structured. Timelines and logs are what institutions respect. Police obtained access logs and CCTV from the storage facility and the clinic. The reliable system, the manager bragged about, did its job. It recorded him entering the clinic after hours on Tuesday, then leaving through a back corridor not covered by the main cameras. It recorded his access badge being used at 22:47, then again at 23:56. 23:56. 2 minutes before Hannah's usual call. He wasn't staging normal. He was staging precision. When they opened the storage unit, they found what criminals always underestimate, their own need to keep trophies and tools. Inside were boxes of sedatives stolen in small amounts from clinic inventory, a bundle of prepaid phones, a laminated list titled Clients, with names and addresses, women who lived alone, noted with commute times, And, behind stacked plastic tubs, Hannah. Not alive. Wrapped carefully, as if care could undo violence. Cause of death was as simple as it was ugly: overdose, meant to control her, administered by someone who thought he could measure risk like medication. The manager was arrested the same night. He tried to talk his way out the way polished men do: calm tone, administrative language, misunderstanding. But the logs didn't care about his tone. The messages didn't care. The storage unit didn't care. It ended the way realistic cases end, not with a dramatic confession, but with evidence that makes denial impossible. After everything, Hannah's brother sat in my office and stared at the floor like he was trying to find a C-minute. "Why the 2-minute call?" he asked. I didn't answer quickly, because some answers don't help. Then I said the truth. Because he thought routine would protect him, I said. He thought if the world saw normal on a phone screen, nobody would look behind it. He nodded slowly, and his face tightened. Did he know her? He asked. Yes, I said. He watched her every day from behind the reception desk. He learned her habits the way people learn passwords, by observing, not asking. When he left, my office felt too quiet. I looked at my own phone and realized how many small routines I had that could be used against me: the same route home, the same time I locked the door, the same 2-minute call people make to reassure someone they've survived another day. Routine feels like safety. But in the wrong hands, routine is a script. And if someone is willing to kill, they'll read your script with perfect timing. After everything, Hannah's brother sat in my office and stared at the floor like he was trying to find a C-minute. Why the 2-minute call? He asked. I didn't answer quickly, because some answers don't help. Then I said the truth. Because he thought routine would protect him, I said. He thought if the world saw normal on a phone screen, nobody would look behind it. He nodded slowly, and his face tightened. Did he know her? He asked. Yes, I said. He watched her every day from behind the reception desk. He learned her habits the way people learn passwords, by observing, not asking. When he left, my office felt too quiet. I looked at my own phone and realized how many small routines I had that could be used against me: the same route home, the same time I locked the door, the same 2-minute call people make to reassure someone they've survived another day. Routine feels like safety. But in the wrong hands, routine is a script. And if someone is willing to kill, they'll read your script with perfect timing. He tried his master key. The lock turned. The door opened a few inches, then stopped, caught by the chain from inside. He looked at me like he wanted me to declare it normal. I didn't. Any windows? I asked. Balcony, he said. Which side? I asked. Courtyard, he replied, pointing. The courtyard wasn't open. It was a private space with a tall fence and a coated gate. The kind of place you can see but shouldn't be able to enter without permission. I asked him for access. He didn't like it, but he gave it. People become cooperative when they realize you're the only one moving quickly. Downstairs, in the courtyard, I looked up at Ava's balcony. The sliding door curtains were drawn. But one corner wasn't fully closed, and through that narrow gap I saw something pale on the floor near the door, like fabric or paper. I stepped closer, careful not to look like I was creeping. People look out windows all the time, and someone might decide to take interest at the worst moment. There was no movement behind the curtain. I didn't climb. Climbing turns you into a suspect. Instead, I did the safe thing. I asked the manager for the building's balcony access plan. Fire safety routes, maintenance ladders, anything official. He said there was a maintenance stairwell that opened onto a service ledge on each floor. We took it. The maintenance stairwell smelled like old dust and damp concrete. The kind of smell that makes you understand nobody cleans the parts of buildings that aren't meant to be seen. On the third floor, the service door opened onto a narrow ledge behind the row of balconies. The ledge had a waist-high rail and just enough room to walk if you weren't afraid of heights or being sued. I moved slowly until I reached Ava's balcony. The sliding door was shut. Curtains drawn. I tapped softly on the glass. "Ava?" I called. Nothing. Then I noticed a tiny detail in the corner of the frame, a strip of clear tape, almost invisible. Someone had taped the door shut from the outside. That's when the case stopped being a welfare check. That's when it became a crime. I took photos. The tape. The frame. The lack of disturbance. Then I backed away and went back inside, because the most dangerous thing you can do is touch the scene before police arrive. But police were slow. The manager had said it himself. Welfare checks sit at the bottom of the pile until they don't. So I did what I could without contaminating. I talked to neighbors. Next door, a woman in her 60s opened her door a crack and kept the chain on, ironic, given what I'd just seen. "Did you know Ava?" I asked. "Not really," she said. "Nice girl. Quiet. When did you last hear her?" I asked. She frowned. "Couple nights ago. Thumping. Like furniture moving." "Which time?" I asked. She thought. "Late. After midnight." "Anything else?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Someone knocked on her door yesterday. A man. He stood there a long time." "Did you see him?" I asked. She nodded. "Uniform. Delivery, maybe. Package?" I asked. "No package," she said. "Just a clipboard." "Clipboard. Uniform. No parcel." "That wasn't delivery. That was access." Across the hall, a younger man answered with headphones around his neck and the look of someone annoyed by human interaction. "Did you see anyone on this floor recently?" I asked. He shrugged. "I saw a maintenance guy 2 days ago. Not our usual one." "What makes you say that?" I asked. He pointed at the ceiling. "Our usual guy complains about the lights. This one didn't. He went straight to 3C like he knew where he was going." "Did he have tools?" I asked. The man frowned. "Small bag. Not a toolbox. Small bag. Clipboard. Tape on the balcony door." This wasn't a random break-in. It was someone who wanted the door to appear locked from the inside while they controlled the only easy exit. I called police and reported what I'd seen: tape on the balcony frame, chain on from inside, neighbor reports of a man with uniform and clipboard. I emphasized one phrase because it triggers faster response than "missing adult" ever will. Possible homicide. They arrived within 25 minutes. That's how it works. Death outranks fear. They forced entry. Chain cut. Door swung open. The air inside was stale and sweet in the wrong way. A too clean scent riding over something older. The flat was tidy, almost staged. No signs of struggle in the living room. Laptop closed. Mug in the sink. Shoes by the door. But in the bedroom, behind the wardrobe door, they found Ava. She had been placed there carefully, like someone trying to delay discovery. Like someone buying time. The medical examiner later would say the cause was as unromantic as most murders: asphyxiation. Quick enough to be efficient. Quiet enough not to wake neighbors if you choose the right hour. The chain being on from inside wasn't a puzzle anymore. It was a lie. Someone had killed her, staged the apartment, locked the chain from the inside using a simple trick, and left through the balcony, taping the sliding door so it wouldn't rattle, so no one would notice the draft, so the scene would stay undisturbed. A maintenance path in. A balcony path out. A clean job. Except for the one thing criminals always underestimate. People notice routine. I asked police for one specific piece of information, and I asked it the way you ask when you want a real answer. I asked for the building's contractor list. Maintenance isn't one person. It's a network. Contractors, subcontractors, temporary staff, emergency, call-out crews that rotate names faster than residents can learn them. The building manager gave me what he had, invoices and contact numbers for the last month. One name appeared on a call-out invoice 2 days ago, Northline Facilities. Generic. Almost fake. I searched it the old-fashioned way, business registry, address, phone. The address was a mailbox service. Of course. But the phone number, when I called, rang once, then clicked to a recorded message. Northline Facilities. Leave your details. The voice was male, calm, practiced. The kind of voice that can tell you procedure and make you feel foolish for questioning it. I didn't leave details. I called again from a prepaid number and stayed silent when it answered. If someone is screening calls, silence makes them react. This time the line didn't go to voicemail. A man picked up. "Yeah," he said, impatient now. I kept silent. He exhaled through his nose. "Stop calling," he said. Then he hung up. No company greeting. No professionalism. That told me Northline was a costume worn only when needed. The police, meanwhile, pulled building entry logs and CCTV. They found the gap. The camera covering the third-floor corridor had a 2-minute blackout at 0:43 the night the neighbor heard furniture moving. Not broken. Not maintenance. Just a clean 2-minute hole. 2 minutes is a window. Not an accident. They traced the camera system access to a contractor login used that same night, Northline Facilities. Now it was no longer a clever murder. It was a technical one, and technical crimes leave technical fingerprints. The breakthrough came from something almost stupid, the tape. Forensics pulled it from the balcony frame and found a partial print. Not enough for a perfect match, but enough to narrow a pool. They cross-checked it against a man already known for access-related crimes, a former security installer named Callum Vane, someone who'd been investigated before for selling fobs and badge services. When they brought him in, he didn't confess. Men like that rarely do. Confession is messy. They prefer denial. But denial doesn't matter when your phone betrays you. They pulled his location history and found his phone had been near Kingswell House on the night Ava died. They pulled his messages and found the words that made the motive clear. Box cleared. Papers moved. Safe deposit boxes, storage units, apartments. Criminals reuse methods because methods are habits, and habits are easier than invention. The papers were the why. Ava had been renting 3C under her real name, but she'd been working as a remote assistant for a legal firm handling sensitive cases. She had access to scanned documents, client identities, and, most importantly, password reset routes. Somebody wanted what she could open. They likely started with intimidation, got inside with a uniform and clipboard, demanded access, and when she resisted, they ended it quietly, then staged the place to buy time. Callum wasn't the only one. Police pulled 2 more names from his phone, men who handled the work while he handled the access. A small crew. Professional enough to be calm, sloppy enough to keep records on a device. They were arrested within a week. The building replaced its contractor system. Residents got emails about enhanced security. The manager apologized publicly and pretended he'd always cared. Ava's family got a closed case, which is the kind of closure that never feels like closure. As for me, what stayed with me wasn't the murder itself. It was the staging. The mug in the sink. The shoes by the door. The laptop closed. The chain on from inside. All designed to make everyone say the same comforting sentence for as long as possible. She's probably fine. That's what predators buy with procedure, time. And time, in a locked flat, is what kills you twice. The most dangerous lie isn't, "I'm going to hurt you." It's, "I'm here to help." That lie comes with a calendar invite, a polite tone, and a logo copied from a website you've seen 100 times. It arrives dressed as routine so your instincts don't wake up in time. This case began with a woman who brought me a printout like it was evidence in a trial she hadn't agreed to attend. Her name was Saffron Hales. Early 30s. HR coordinator. A person trained to trust process because process is her job. She placed the paper on my desk and didn't sit. "Tell me this isn't real," she said. The paper was a screenshot of an email confirmation. City Women's Health Clinic. Appointment confirmed, 18:20, Thursday. Patient, Nadia Sarek. Reason, private consultation. Instructions, use rear entrance. Bring ID. Come alone. Under it was a QR code. "Who is Nadia?" I asked. "My sister," she replied. "She vanished after work. She told me she had an appointment. She showed me this. It looked normal." "How long ago?" I asked. 6 days, Saffron said. "Police said she's an adult. That she might have left." "Did she have a reason to leave?" I asked. Saffron's jaw tightened. "No. She's a dental nurse. She works, she comes home, she complains about sore feet and eats toast. She doesn't disappear." "Any threats?" I asked. She hesitated. "There was one text," she admitted. "From an unknown number. 'Don't miss your appointment.' She thought it was the clinic." "Did you call the clinic?" I asked. "I did," she said, voice hardening. "They said they've never heard of her." That was the first real fracture, an appointment confirmation for a clinic that denied the appointment existed. Either the clinic was lying, or someone was using the clinic's name to lure women. "Do you have access to her accounts?" I asked. "I have her iPad," she said. "She trusted me with her passcode. She slid it across." I don't rush into devices. Not because I'm noble, because it's easy to contaminate a timeline with your own clicks. But Saffron already had police involved, and police hadn't moved fast enough. So I looked for the simple thing first. The calendar. There it was, private consultation, 18:20, rear entrance. Created 2 days before she vanished. Organizer, City Women's Health Clinic. It wasn't a normal calendar entry. It had a link and a QR attachment. A QR code can be harmless. It can also be a leash, something that, when scanned, tells someone you've arrived. "Did your sister mention scanning it?" I asked. Saffron nodded. "She said you had to check in." "That's not how most clinics do it," I said. Saffron's eyes went wide. "So it was a trap?" "Likely," I said. "But we need to prove it." One, the clinic that wasn't involved. I went to the real clinic first. Not to accuse, just to see if someone could plausibly impersonate them. The building was legitimate. Reception. Nurses. Privacy glass. The usual clean sterility. I asked for the manager and introduced myself as a private investigator working on a missing person case involving possible impersonation. The manager, woman in her 40s, exhausted professionalism, looked sick as soon as I showed her the screenshot. "That's not our email template," she said immediately. "What's different?" I asked. She pointed to small things most people ignore: spacing, font weight, the absence of a specific disclaimer. Then she leaned closer. And we don't use a rear entrance for patients, she added. Only staff. Could someone access your branding? I asked. Anyone, she said. It's online. Staff email compromised? I asked. She shook her head. No sign. But compromise isn't always a breach. Sometimes it's a person in a uniform holding a clipboard. I asked for two things, any recent staff issues and a list of contractors who'd worked on the building in the last month. She frowned. Why contractors? Because rear entrance is an insider detail, I said. And insiders aren't always employees. She didn't love the question, but she answered. A cleaning company. A maintenance electrician. A security contractor. I wrote the names down. Then I asked about CCTV. We have cameras outside, she said. But data protection, police request only. Understood, I replied. If a woman is being lured using your name, police will request. Her expression tightened, and I could tell she was picturing headlines. Saffron had Nadia's last location from a friend tracking app they used casually. It showed Nadia near the clinic at 1813, then movement toward the back street, then nothing at 1819. A 6-minute window. The rear street was narrower, darker, and full of practical things, bins, delivery bays, a service door with a keypad. I stood there at the same time on the next Thursday and watched how the street behaved. At 1816, a white van arrived and parked like it belonged. No logos. Clean. The kind of vehicle that can be anything: courier, plumbing, clinic supplies. Two men stepped out, both in neutral workwear. Not medical scrubs. Not uniforms. Just enough to look like workers. They didn't approach the clinic door. They approached the service gate and waited. At 1819, a woman walked into the street alone, looking at her phone. She slowed, checking for the rear entrance. One of the men lifted a hand and smiled like he was welcoming her to an appointment. I didn't wait for the next step. I walked into the street as if I belonged there too. The men turned their heads toward me. The woman glanced at me, uncertain. I raised my voice slightly, not aggressive, just clear. "Excuse me," I said to the woman, "are you here for a consultation?" She nodded, hesitant. "Don't," I said quietly. "This isn't the clinic." Her eyes widened. The men's posture changed in a way you feel before you see it: tension, readiness, the moment they decide whether to escalate. One man stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked, voice calm but edged. "Someone who doesn't like lures," I replied. He smiled. "You're making a mistake." I looked at the woman. "Walk away," I told her, firm. She hesitated 1 second, then turned and walked fast, not running, just moving with the sudden understanding that politeness can kill you. The men watched her leave. Then they watched me. "Nice," one said softly. "You saved one." I didn't answer. I didn't bargain. I let my phone stay visible in my hand, screen up, recording. Recording is a weapon that doesn't require strength. They didn't touch me. They didn't rush. They backed toward the van and got in, slow, like they knew there were cameras somewhere and they were confident those cameras wouldn't help. The van rolled away. I stood there with the sick certainty of being right. They were running a repeatable scheme. And Nadia had walked into it. Back at my office, I opened the QR code file from Nadia's calendar entry, carefully, in a controlled environment. It wasn't a clinic check-in site. It was a short link that redirected to a basic web page with one function. It captured device data and pinged a server. No medical info. No appointment details. Just a silent, "Here I am." It wasn't for the clinic. It was for whoever wanted to know when the victim arrived. I sent that information to my police contact immediately. Not as a theory. As a mechanism, link ping arrival confirmation. Then I asked Saffron for something families often avoid, Nadia's bank activity. Saffron looked uncomfortable. Is that necessary? Yes, I said. If this is a lure and take operation, money comes next. Nadia's account showed 2 odd transactions after she vanished, small card payments at a petrol station and a convenience shop, both made while she was missing. The amounts were trivial, but the locations weren't. They were near an industrial estate outside the city. Trivial purchases are sometimes criminals testing whether a card is flagged. The cheaper the test, the less attention it attracts. Industrial estates all look the same in the dark, roll-up doors and empty roads and the feeling that nobody would hear you if you shouted. I didn't go alone. I'm not heroic. I'm practical. I coordinated with police and gave them the estate location and the timing pattern. Thursday, 1815 to 1825, Rear Street Lure. Police surveillance moved in. 2 nights later, they hit a unit rented under a shell company with a name that sounded like logistics. Inside they found exactly what you'd expect if you've seen how modern abduction works when it's designed to be quiet. A desk with a printer and stacks of appointment confirmations ready to send. A pile of burner phones. A laptop with templates for fake clinic emails. Zip ties, tape, disposable gloves. And a back room with a chair bolted to the floor. They found 1 woman alive, sedated but breathing. They did not find Nadia alive. Nadia was discovered later, in the simplest and ugliest way, a body left where it would be noticed only when the smell forced someone to call it in. That's what cowards do. They rely on time to blur responsibility. Cause of death, overdose. Not recreational, administrative. A dose used to control her, misjudged or deliberately increased when she fought. The men arrested weren't masterminds in the way people imagine. They were operators, skilled at impersonation, confident with routine, trained in the language of procedure. They had done it before. They had a list. That's what made Saffron's face go hollow when the officer told her, Nadia wasn't random. Nadia fit the profile, young, working, responsible, likely to attend a private consultation without telling many people, likely to obey instructions like rear entrance and come alone. A person who follows rules is easier to trap with fake rules. The piece that closed the case, fully, cleanly, was not the van or the industrial unit. It was the first email. Digital forensics traced the clinic sender domain to a cheap web hosting provider. Payment for that domain was made using a card tied to a small security contracting firm. A firm that had done work, briefly, at the real clinic. Not because they hacked the clinic. Because one of their employees had learned the staff-only entrance details, then sold the script, rear entrance, bring ID, check in by QR, come alone. He didn't need to touch a victim. He just needed to sell the right words to the right men. They arrested him too. And the manager at the real clinic, genuine, shaken, received a formal apology from the police for the disruption. As if disruption was the worst thing that had happened. When Saffron returned to my office to collect copies of the evidence packet, she didn't cry. She looked like someone trying to keep her life from shattering by holding it very still. Why her? She asked. I answered as plainly as I could. Because your sister trusted procedure, I said. And someone weaponized it. She nodded once. On the way out, she stopped at the door and turned back. What do I tell people? She asked. So they don't fall for this? I looked at the street beyond my window, people walking with phones in their hands, obeying lights, trusting logos, checking calendars. Then I said the only advice that matters and still isn't enough. If someone tells you to come alone, I said, you bring someone anyway. Because in a city full of official-looking emails, the most dangerous appointment is the one that doesn't exist.